Hello and welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a show that brings you up close with great personalities in Ghana, not just with the aim of exciting you, but to make available valuable lessons that will spur you on to become that great personality that you can also be. My name is Joseph Akable, and my guest for today will blow your mind. A man who made a transition from being a captain in the army to become a captain of a successful group of companies. He has won numerous awards, ranging from the Marketing Man of the Year in 2006 to an African Life Achievement Award for innovation in Africa. His story is interesting, and he has been described by many as the classical example of an entrepreneur in Ghana. My guest for today is Mr. Prince Kofi Amoabeng. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
I trust you are doing well.
Yeah, nice to have you too.
Thank you. Let's start by having a look at your background, how it started for your life story from your childhood, your parents, as well as education.
Well, I had a normal childhood, normal as an average. My father was a cocoa purchasing clerk, and my mother was a farmer. And I was born in Bososo in the Eastern region. And I started school as normal, and we were transferred to Kukrantumis, which is my hometown, and continued elementary school. But my father believed in education, as in quality education. And for his level, and he had probably went to commercial school at best. And he had decided that he would give the best to his kids in the form of education. And so it was surprising for most people that he actually put me in Penworth Preparatory School, which was about the foremost preparatory school in the country, and very expensive. I remember that time the fees for a term was £21.10, and it was unheard of in my village that any kid would go to a school where you pay £21.10 a term. But my father sacrificed to put me through that. After that, I qualified to go to Adisado College after the Common Entrance, then went to Sixth Form St. Peter's School, went to Legon, after that to do BS Administration. And it was like hot knife through butter, but I just went through from Form 1 through OA levels and university. By the age of 22, 1974, I had finished my formal education as I was a graduate.
How was the financial strength of your parents?
Not really strong, and they had really hard times, certain times paying my fees and looking after me. But I wasn't someone who demanded much, and I knew the sacrifice they were making, so I could understand most of the time. But throughout from secondary school, I had Cocoa Marketing Board Scholarship, which came in very timely. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have finished school. And it helped my parents to be able to give the small support I needed to go through school. So it wasn't that expensive, but thanks to the scholarship at the time.
And what did you study at Legon?
I did BS Administration with accounting major, and I was in Saba Hall.
A Viking?
I was in Saba Hall, started at Ponglo and moved to main hall in the final year. For
the Opus, you know the clash with the Vandals. In those days, how was it like, and how was campus life?
It wasn't a clash at those days because I was crowned the Obscene in Saba Hall, and I was associate member of Vandal City. It was because they found that I was a star when it comes to fooling and things like that in Saba Hall. So every function in Commonwealth Hall, they actually invited the top players from Sabah to come and help them. So it was more cordial. It wasn't antagonistic at all.
In the student's life, was it any fond memories from your days on Legon campus that you look back?
Many of them. I mean, nothing to compare with today's life on campus. I mean, for us, before we went on campus, the first years had to go on orientation. So we got on campus before the second, third years came. because Legon campus was huge. It's still huge, but there weren't too many students, so they had to actually show you where everything was, the BAM library, the various halls, and lecture halls and things like that, so you could find your bearing around. Some people had to be taught dining hall manners and things like that. And so you had orientation, and then you were paid an allowance for being on campus. So we called it alawa, or millions. And the millions those days was 100 cedis a year. So you receive something like 34 cedis, and 32 cedis in the third term. And it was a lot of money. So for those who even didn't have any support, I mean, some people lived on the millions and sent some home to their relatives. And we used to go to Lome and things like that to go and shop, buy apples, buy some cheese, buy materials to sew trousers and things like that. Life was easy, and it was very conducive to learning. We had, in Opongo, there were 2 of us to a room. Well, in main hall, you had a room to yourself with a whole balcony. The lifts in Opongo and everywhere was working. There were 3 square meals a day with ice cream, coffee, and tea.
Those were the good days of education in Ghana.
Exactly. So it's nothing to compare with what is here. I mean, I've met some students and I tell them that, one day I was going on a lift to Ponglo and he says, "What do you mean?" And I said, What do you mean, what do I mean? He says, "Has there ever been a lift to Ponglo?" I said, "Have you seen those shafts there?"
Yeah, they are still there.
And I said, "They used to work." And, one of the days we had closed from lunch and the lift wasn't working. And I said there was no way I was going to climb the lifts to go to the 4th floor, because Ghana government didn't want me to go up the stairs. And they had to call the lift repairers from UTC at the time to rush and repair the lifts before I go up. Otherwise, I wasn't going to go up. And so we were laid back and we were there for the studies, and you had all the facilities and conditions for you to study.
Now, your program of study, the accounting you read at a business school, was it something that you had a passion for, or probably you had influence from elsewhere?
In my particular case, I was more of a science student, and I was very good in maths and physics, art maths and the rest. And I thought I was going to go to Tech to do engineering. Unfortunately, for some reason, I don't like chemistry. So when I got to 6th form, I ended up doing physics, maths, and economics, which was quite odd those days. And then I applied still to go to Tech, but because I didn't have chemistry, I couldn't do the engineering or any of those subjects. Then I had school administration admitted me because of maybe the maths and economics. So when I got to school administration, I wasn't very happy in the initial stages, so I wasn't doing engineering. But with time, I got to realize that it was a better choice for me, because one, the course was very easy. See, one subject which takes probably 50% of the time of all admin students is quantitative techniques or something like that. At our time, it was called quantitative techniques. And because I had A-level math and I was good at math, for me it was like a free subject. So I had a lot of time to play the fool and still make it. Actually, I was sitting in the hall, and when the art students, mostly art students, go and they cannot understand the quantitative techniques, then they will come to me. And I'll use that as revision. So I found school administration my time very, very easy, and ended up with a 2nd class upper and majored in accounting.
Now, looking at your education throughout from the basic level up to the university level, in terms of the type of student that you were, will you describe yourself as one very quiet, very popular, or the one always causing trouble for the teachers?
I certainly wasn't quiet. As I said, I was obscene in Sabah Hall, so you can imagine what that means. I think one of the trouble courses than anything else. It's because maybe, looking at it in hindsight, I had too much time on my hands. I honestly believe if I understood why I was in school, I probably could have had 1st class easily and topped the whole class. I didn't quite understand what the education was about. I actually felt, even up to university level, I felt I was learning to please my father, because he insisted that I had to come home with good grace. And I respected him enough and did not want to hurt him, so I would always put in that little effort to make sure that I have a decent grade that will please him. If I had known I was learning for myself and for my future, it would have been something else. But I guess I was too young and too exuberant to actually understand completely what learning meant to me.
Any memorable trouble you caused that when you still think of, you have reason to smile about and be like, I wish I didn't do this?
Well, a lot of them. I mean, I remember one of our normal things, we went to the dining hall to have breakfast, and I think either tea got short or something. And we had tea in drums and he opened with a tap, and that was just there. You take as much as you would like. And I think for some reason the tea got finished a bit early. So we ransacked the cafeteria and took the ice cream that we were going to eat in the afternoon and took it to our halls. And what I did was I put the whole box at the balcony, stupidly enough, and of course with the sun it melted and things like that. Not that I wanted to eat it, wanted to create problem for the matron at the time. And I warned the matron that we have taken the ice cream in place of the tea. Woe unto you if we come back lunchtime and there's no ice cream. And actually, after our lectures, I actually organized the students and said, let's go back to cafeteria and let the matron tell us there's no ice cream. And we started our songs from outside through the athletic field. And we got to the cafeteria all charged up. And lo and behold, there was ice cream. So I walked to the matron and said, how there might be see Anyenyo. I think she's a wish to be able to have ice cream at such short notice. And fast forward, when I joined the army later on and I went on campus in uniform and I went to greet the matron and said, this is the job for you. I'd always known that I would be a soldier man. You know. So
looking back, when you were at the university, especially in your final days, what career goals were you anticipating, or did you look forward to joining the army?
As a matter of fact, I didn't have a clear anticipation of what I wanted to do. Those days, if you had second class upper, almost automatically you can get a scholarship to do your master's. There are all sort of Commonwealth scholarships in India, Canada, Australia. All you have to do is apply and you get one of those. So I thought I was actually going to go on to do MBA and do a doctorate. One thing that I always thought about is that I wanted to be called Dr. Amoabeng. So I was more bent on studying, keeping on studying. I think that the aspect of it was that I didn't like responsibility. I wanted to be in school and everything was free and I'll just learn and maybe in future maybe get some job to do. So I wasn't bent on becoming anything special. So then I left university and I applied those days to Scholarship Secretariat, who were on this job 600 building. And I guess the corruption and things had started because for no reason, and I wasn't called for any interview, some people got the scholarships and I wasn't even called at all. So I realized that my dreams are not coming through. I mean, getting the master's program to go on wasn't coming. And I was also finding it difficult managing my finances. Those days, national service was 135 cedis, which was enough if you are the cool type and you could manage your finances. But I used to gamble in the night and go to nightclubs and things like that, so I couldn't manage it. And that is why when I saw the advert in the paper saying that graduates needed to be recruited into the armed forces, and that included graduates with BSc admin, I evaluated and said, maybe I should go. And the reason why I did take the plunge was that I did a simple analysis and said, if I go into the army, I will have 3 square meals a day, I'll have uniforms, I'll have a room to myself, and the room will be furnished, changed and everything by armed forces, and still have a salary. So really, I wasn't going to face any.
They're similar to the kind of life you
exactly.
enjoyed at university.
Actually, similar to the kind of campus life. So I took the plunge and joined the army. And it wasn't that easy because I hated the army because we had had a lot of confrontations, students and army those days, a Champon regime. So it was odd for my friends that you of all people want to join the other side. And I said, well, I think the conditions there are similar to what we had on campus. And what really tipped the scales was that I asked a senior army officer at the time, and I said, I have a second class upper, I have a good chance of continuing my education. Would you advise me, if I were your son, to join the army? And what he said was, he asked me the question, how old are you? And I said, I was 23. And he laughed and said, at 23, my advice to you is join the army. Short service commission, 5 years. If after 5 years, you even don't want the army, you have your whole life ahead of you. You'll only be 28 or 29. So join the army. I didn't think it was a good advice, but I had already made my mind that it was a cozy way. So I joined the army.
You finally walked away from the army. What pushed you away?
I love the army. It's a fantastic institution. I think if you ask me to rank all the schools and qualifications that I have had, I'll probably put the army training and the army institution as the best. You know, so when I joined the army, I had meant to stay. I loved the army. I had meant to stay. It was fantastic. But within a period of 6 years, I saw the army really disintegrate and turned upside down. Typically, I joined the army in 1975 and I left in 1982. And between 1975, when Achampon was in power, there was the house coup, Akufu came. Then there was the June 4th, May 15th and June 4th, when Rawlings and his people came to power. But that time I was in the UK. And I came back after that when there was Liman. Liman served for just about 2 years, and there was the so-called revolution, and the army was turned upside down completely, with junior officers and other ranks running the country and the armed forces, and the senior officers had been put in guard rooms, and some had been killed, a lot had gone into exile, there was a lot of disorder, and I said, this is not the army I joined. So I left simply because the army had changed and the whole country had changed.
But I believe that change was the case as at the June 4th, 79. Because at that point in time, you had the junior officers. That was when.
No, June 4th, I was not here. I was in UK on scholarship, and I was studying to become a chartered accountant. And I finished in December 1979. Earlier on, when there was a revolution, I heard about it. I had made up my mind not to come to Ghana because I couldn't envisage or imagine how Ghana was with junior officers and other ranks in running the country. But by the time I finished my course, the man had come and the report was that Ghana was getting better again, the coup idea was over, there was a civilian government, there was democracy. So I ventured and came back. And the army had changed drastically, but I entertained a hope that it can be rebuilt and the nation can be rebuilt, and I needed to be a part of it. So it was slow, but the change was coming. I mean, there were goods coming back on the market, there was help from IMF and the rest, and then there was the revolution again. That's when I threw my hands up and said, nothing good can come out of it.
I don't think it would be so inaccurate to describe you as someone who has an aversion for these military takeovers of any kind.
It will always be wrong for a military to take over power. You see, even the military taking over or defying orders, it tantamounts to mutiny, which in the military law books is probably the biggest crime, mutiny. Now, when it's about taking the rights of a whole people, a nation, I don't think it's pardonable. No one, no human being on his own has the right to say that I am doing the right thing for my people. The people must decide what they want. And unfortunately, when we come and we say we're doing a revolution, we put the people back to bed, curfews and things like that, and do whatever we want onto them. The very people that we're supposed to liberate suffer the most. And I don't think anyone without a people's mandate has the right to organize a coup.
So after the army, what did you do next?
Well, when I left the army, there were no jobs. There was a lot of hunger in Ghana. If you heard about Rawlings chain and all those things. So I tried to go to Nigeria because a lot of Ghanaians were teaching in Nigeria. And I couldn't fit. I didn't see how I would sit in Nigeria and just lecture and have some money. And that was about all. So then I tried to go back to London, where I had come from not too long ago, to see if I could use the qualification I had. And again, I wasn't feeling right in a foreign land. I couldn't even get a job which was commensurate with the qualification I had because I didn't have working permits and all those things. So I came back. I tried Liberia because I had a job offer. That also didn't work. And I decided that, listen, for some reason, my creator put me here in Ghana to be born a Ghanaian. And I don't see why I should move out and why I should force myself to move out. So somehow, if I was put here by the Creator, it means I have a purpose here, so I will stay. And I decided I was going to stay. I didn't have a job, but at least I had friends. And I started moving up and down with some of my friends, especially my next door neighbor who was a businessman. And I had to learn business, how to do business in Ghana. It's a real jungle. You have to learn completely. And it was tough. And sometimes you don't have money in your pocket, and it's weekend and you are going home. And certain times, you don't know when your next bread is going to come. But I was doing everything, buy and sell. If you hear they're selling something here, those days, got a shortage. If you knew there was something somewhere, you could probably go and negotiate and pick a few and go and sell and take the money and go and pay. And you always carried an invoice. Set up a company, had the invoice in your briefcase, so quickly you can issue invoices and things like that. Then we call ourselves general merchants. Later on, went into importation of all kinds of goods, wines, ceramic tiles, vehicle tires. I dealt in the Bruniwawu business for a while. I did that in commodities. I was in construction. I was in sawmilling. I was in air conditioning business. I later on went into petroleum business. I did almost anything, everything. But the interesting thing is that I think I was actually taking my proper degree. Proper degree in the sense that I was learning about the attitudes and behaviors and the way to do business in Ghana. And I failed in a lot of the businesses. That's why I kept moving on. In certain places, I succeeded to some point, but I'm someone who hasn't got a lot of patience. So a lot of times I had walked away from businesses because maybe misunderstanding with my partner or lack of trust here, or maybe I just get mad at it because people are not behaving the way I expect them to behave. Because know that coming out of the military, you are completely different from the typical civilian. At least one thing that I still cannot understand is why people cannot keep time. And so I found that it was difficult adjusting to the business community in Ghana. But as I said, I failed a lot of things, and I sat down to analyze why I had failed so many times. And I realized that it was because I wasn't getting the right funding at the right time. Because some of the times you have a cozy business, you can see the margins easy. Anybody can see it. You go to the bank, and the bank probably will take too much time. By the time they are ready to probably help, the business is gone because the business won't wait for you. And otherwise, the bank may not approve anything at all after wasting all the time, or they may approve a fraction of what you want, which cannot do the business. And I used to have a lot of tussle with my banks because as I said, I'm not very patient, and I easily blow off and things. So when I realized that the main problem was lack of funding, and I asked myself, I am a qualified accountant with first degree in business administration, with military background, and I believe I had a lot of integrity, and people knew I wouldn't cheat, I wouldn't lie. And I couldn't raise money from the banks. So something must be wrong somewhere. If I could not raise money from, what about the numerous SMEs and private businesses who all need money? That was where the idea of forming a financial institution came from. That I should address my own frustrations and my own challenges.
Looking at the businesses that you engage in, I'm wondering, because you had quit the army and you still went ahead engaging in various businesses. Now, we all know the issue of business, and as an entrepreneur, you understand better the issue of capital. At that point in time, how were you financing your activities?
You see, the fate of the businessman is that sometimes you make a break and make some money. Depending on your lifestyle, you probably will blow all that money, especially that bigger monies are coming. But again, I'll explain that with my military background. I'm quite disciplined when it comes to money. I hate wasting money. So to answer your question, when I made some money, I put a lot of it aside. Because you don't know when the next one is coming. That's what most people don't get. They think maybe they start a business and they see some money, they think they're going to get a lot more money in the future, so they start wasting the money that they have. People should adopt the habit of not wasting anything. I mean, typically for me, even if I have to brush my teeth in the morning, I turn on the tap onto the toothbrush and I turn the tap off. And I only turn the tap on when I want to use it. When I see people brushing their teeth with the tap flowing, I get mad because you are wasting water. Somebody hasn't got water. So you have to be disciplined enough to avoid waste at all times. So the answer to your question was that whatever I made, I tend to put it back into other ventures or other businesses. Some of the time, you have to team up with a friend to say that, listen, I have got so much, can we come up with this much so that we all take the venture together?
Do you recollect any single moment that, if I'm to borrow the phrase, that you started working, in the sense of the accolades that you've won? When did you think you got onto the right path that you've been on since, in terms of even before you went to ID with a financial institution even?
You see, I said I'm not a very patient person. And I try businesses, and if there are any hitches, I tend to walk away. Now, when I started the lending institution as a Unique Trust Financial Services, that was different. Because I started by talking to friends and relatives and taking their money and lending this money to the people and business that needed the money. And as you got successful, you took more monies from the system, therefore you are more accountable and responsible for bigger monies and getting bigger. So when do you walk away? You can't walk away. So I was entrapped by the business. And because I felt I had to be there to ensure that the people's monies that they've pledged to me will never go to waste and nobody can do them, I had to actually start building the structures and getting the right people and growing the business, making sure it becomes very stable. And I could not walk away because at what point in time are you going to tell people that forget about your money? So I felt there was an obligation to be there and to defend the monies, because when I was raising those monies, I went to people, some of them in their bedrooms, and they would look at me in the face and say, Kofi, this is my last money, but I trust that you can use it and give me some interest. And I wasn't going to fail them. So that commitment kept me in the business and to grow the business and ensure that people's monies are protected. People everywhere will want to know who caused whatever event is there. So I think the achievements of UT over the years have been quite interesting for most Ghanaians, as in a local or indigenous company starting from virtually nowhere and growing to what it is today. And therefore they want to find someone to associate with. And I'm not surprised that, because they were associated with me, because I was there in the beginning. Started with a staff of 3 other people, and we started growing the business to became 20, 50, whatever, and now the whole UT group consists of the UT Bank, UT Life Insurance, UT Properties, UT Logistics, UT Private Securities, and we ventured into UT Nigeria and so on and so forth. It's a good Ghanaian story, and people want to associate somebody with it. And since I was there from the beginning, and I'm a co-founder, they associated with me. One thing I have to say is that I'll be the last person to say that I deserve all the attention and the glory. In this world, we come into the world and God uses us for various reasons. It may be small, maybe big. It's not up to us to judge. But there are a lot more people who have been a part of the UT story, who have played roles quite significant, and who probably will not be associated with the UT story. Because people don't really care too much about everybody. I mean, when you talk about Ghana now, people say, oh, President Mahama's country, because they want one individual to associate with. So I'm not surprised that when you say Kofi Amoabeng, people, yes, will come up with UT, but UT is a story that has unfolded, has been built by a lot more people. For example, my co-founder, the person that I started with, and he has 50% of whatever we built. Most people don't even know him because he was a silent partner, but I was the person who was seen on the road and walking up and down and doing the legwork. So I think that's what people see, and that's what they want to associate with.
Looking at the journey so far, not all of your colleagues we started out with, even at the university level, have made it this far. What do you think has so far set you apart from your colleagues?
It's difficult to tell. I think a lot of the things that we go through or happen to us has got a lot to do with our upbringing. The way we're brought up, which shapes the kind of values and how we treat people is one. Then, of course, the education and the experiences that people we meet all also come to shape the things. Now, I believe that for you to be successful, one, you have to have the right values and attitudes. You must be brought up properly to love humanity and want to do good unto people. One. The other thing is that you should be quite knowledgeable and educated enough to actually be able to provide a service or to come up with a product. Now, it's when you are a good person who wants to see people develop and improve their lives, and you are also good at providing a service of or a product, then you can make it. Because then what we're saying is, this is an excellent service or product which will improve people's lives. So let me actually apply it so that it affects the people that I love. And I call it the story of two loves. You love people generally, you're a good person, well-mannered, well brought up, right attitudes, you love humanity, and you have a love for a product or a service. So when you have the two loves, that is when you have a passion, because nothing stops you. This is good for these people, and therefore I will follow it and make sure that they succeed. And when I sit back and I look at what we have done at UT, I feel good about it because currently UT, we are well over 2,000, so at least 2,000 people and their dependents are being taken care of by this institution we've created. The institution also has helped a lot more families, companies that also employ, and people who depend on those companies and things like that. We provided a lot of earnings or interest income to a lot of our investors, and we have even paid handsome taxes to the national coffers. We've done a lot of corporate social responsibility to orphanages, to institutions and things. And those are the things that really should spur people on to do what they want to do.
Now, on the issue, just your thoughts on the issue of unemployment. Now, for instance, I'm in final year at the university. What's your word of advice for students at the university as they are preparing to leave? Do you think, what do you think they should be investing their time in, even during their stay at the university, to ensure that they become well equipped for the job market once they are done?
I know that times have changed. I mean, from my time to now, so I have to be very careful what I tell you. But whatever it is, I think you should have your own priorities. If you are on the campus now, the reason why you are there is to acquire as much knowledge as possible. So that should be your top priority. I personally think it's not so much what you want to do, because nature has a funny way of throwing you into certain areas that you can't even imagine or anticipate now. So put all your effort into studying and getting the best grades out. You should also associate with the right people so that they will have an impact on your life and build the perspective of your life, as in your attitudes and the kind of values that you have. And when you've passed that and come out, it is challenging. I mean, our time, you probably will walk into a job. There might not be a job now. What I try to do for a lot of students is that normally level 300, UT will try and give them some kind of attachment. And then when they finish, they naturally have to go national service. If you want to go into business, you try to get into a business to do your national service. When you do that, you try and excel. Let them know. I mean, find extra work to do. Let them know that you have a purpose. You have some kind of fire burning in you. And for most good companies, they will see what is in you, and you have a good chance of staying in the company or getting good referral. The internship gives you referral. It means you are not raw. You have seen a workplace environment before, and then you have to try and make your mark. It's difficult for me to say that don't look for a job and try to set up on your own, because that is quite a Herculean task and it's quite frightening. But some people, while they are in school, have started with some kind of hobbies and things like that, and they have idea of the kind of business they want to do. If you don't have the right values, it's more difficult to raise money because people don't trust you. That is why it's important that you have the right values and you have the right values like integrity, and you stay focused on what you want to do, and you respect people and things like that. Because then when you want to raise money, they can say that, oh, as for Kofi, really, he would never set out to waste your money unless he gets a bad passion. Like. So to come back to the students, I would say focus on what you are supposed to do now. If you have to do some business on the side, yes, but then it's going to take a bit of your time, so manage your time. But come out with a good grade, and that grade with the CV and the attachment that you do probably land you a good job, or possibly give you an opportunity for you to further your studies.
The show is still on the shoulders of giants. We'll be right back after this break. You're welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants, and so far we have been interacting with Mr. Kofi Amoabeng. So now let's move on a bit, and let's pick your thoughts again on the issue of your success story again. Now looking at the trajectory, the rise and everything, will you attribute it to hard work, the issue of luck, or determination on your part?
Well, I think because we are created into this world and we don't even have a say as in how we come and things like that. Certainly, when things happen, we say that maybe it's the will of God and things like that. But we're all here in this world. One, because the Creator feels that you could be of use to what He's created. What I mean is, the only reason why anyone will create anything is when you think you can have use for it, it will better your life or better the environment. So I believe that we're put here by God because God wants us to be of effect or to impact what He's created. Or put it simply, so that you can impact your neighbors. Now, so as we go through life, we should find what use we can be to the system, to nature, to creation. And we need to make investments into ourselves to be able to do it. That's why you go to school and learn hard and get good at speaking to people, understanding issues, and get a profession. When you acquire that, you must be on the lookout for what really moves you, what is good that you think you can do unto your fellow human beings. Now, when you found that, or you find yourself in a position, you have to really, really work hard. One, you have to make sure that you know what you're supposed to do at what you're doing. So you must learn hard and make sure you acquire the right profession and things like that. Two, you must also be honest to people, have a lot of integrity. Don't try to cheat people. Don't try to put people off track and things like that. Then you must also try to do things that will make sure that people's lives get better. And as you do that, you have to also respect them all the time. Now, when you do these things and work hard at it, it is said that luck comes when you work hard. You can't just sit and be lucky. You must be working hard, and then when luck is coming, it sees you working and it comes to affect you. So if you work hard, you may probably earn 2 times, 3 times your input, because then you get lucky. I don't believe in luck coming by itself, but luck comes to those who work really hard. So as I said, identify what you think will make you useful to society. Love what you think you're doing. If it's the wrong thing, move on and do something else. And when you have a passion for what you're doing, you appreciate what you're doing to society, and it makes you feel good. That is what keeps the passion burning, and that is what will let you work hard at it, because as you improve, you're getting better results. And you certainly get lucky along the way.
What do you make of the relationship between that the youth have with politics and religion?
Politics actually affects all of us. So all of us must be interested in politics. Unfortunately, our politics has become too divided that we don't tolerate the other side. So as a youth coming up, I've seen a lot of people who have never worked before, and they are ministers, and they are supposed to be corrupt, and they've amassed wealth and things like that. So some of the youth want to follow because this guy who was here and he left 5 years ago, look at where he is. That is an unfortunate shortcut. If you get into position to better yourself against the general good, I'm not supposed to judge, but I think you have to live with your own conscience. And God may not be too pleased with you. So for me, when it comes to politics and the youth, fine, some students practice politics on campus and they are quite good at it. But it should not be politics of divisiveness, politics where people who have learned and have good qualification, have good heads on their shoulders, will insult adults. I mean, I find it very disgusting when I see people very young, maybe in their 30s, they get into politics and they are insulting senior politicians because they belong to the other side. I mean, you're not brought up properly, if you ask me. It should be practiced fairly with due respect for everybody, and note that if you go into politics, you're going to politics to serve the people, not to take advantage of them, because leadership is about service, and the youth have to get it right. It's not about going in there to exploit them to amass wealth. When it comes to religion, it's more or less the same. You say that you've had a call or you want to lift people up and raise their awareness of what they have to do to please God and to serve God and do God's wishes. And if you use it to amass wealth, it's just like the politician. So again, examine your own heart, because you have to go and serve people and raise people's souls and hearts to God. And it's not about exploiting them and taking from them all sort of thing. I mean, there are some good politicians, there are some good religious people, but I'm not supposed to judge. The Bible says thou shalt not judge. But I think for the youth that are coming out, make sure that you go in there and you want to lead the people because you want to serve them.
So thank you so much for speaking.
It's my pleasure.
This has been another exciting edition of On the Shoulders of Giants. Do join us another time for another interesting discussion. And like we say, we are offering you the platform where you can learn so much from such great personalities so that you become the great person as well. My name once again is Joseph Akambi. Thank you so much.